welcome to your go-to Detroit Pistons podcast, The Pistons Pulse, co-hosted by me, Bryce Simon of Motor City Hoops, a former D1 hooper and current teacher, husband, and father of 3 amazing kids.
I'm Omari Psycho for the second Pistons beat writer for the Detroit Free Press.
And of course, we're always blessed to be joined by our producer, Wes Davenport. If you are not listening to Wes and Blake Silverman over on the Pin Down on the Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel, you absolutely should be. You should obviously be subscribed to the Detroit Free Press, reading all of Omari Sankofa for the second's work. And if you have it in you, because it's completely free, should also subscribe to the Motor City Hoops Substack. I have some video breakdowns over there talking and looking at the players that we're about to talk about on today's episode. I'd really appreciate your support. O2, I want to bring up something real quick though. As I've been doing these video breakdowns and as I've been watching back Summer League games to talk on Game Theory podcast, because we're going to recap all of the rookies and sophomores and all of that, I found myself very annoyed with the broadcast doing the 2-box of the game when they were doing an interview. Like, do I need to see Scotty Barnes while they are interviewing him during the game? Or can you just put his name at the bottom so I know who the other person talking is?
Yeah, or you could just do like the picture-in-picture, like just make it smaller in the corner. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like side by side when they're just sitting down on the sideline. Like, it's not that interesting of a visual. I think you could trust that the person is actually there doing the interview based on the lower third and the voice. So yeah, they do that every single year, and every year it's like, I know it's Summer League, but I mean, you're making it half of the screen. Like what's going on here? It's just like a weird UI annoyance for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're in person, obviously you don't recognize it. And I don't know what viewers who are only just watching the game think about it. But for me, I almost just fast forward through all of those minutes, because whenever I'm trying to do a video breakdown, and this is like, I shouldn't be complaining about something like this. Like, I'm blessed that I have access to the film to do my video breakdowns, but I almost just fast forward through those minutes because I can't show people what I want to show them, because half the screen is taken up by, like, I love Trajan. I love JB. I don't need him taking up half the screen when I'm trying to show what Dannis Jenkins is doing with his ball screen navigation. I just found that very frustrating. I don't know if anybody else noticed it or not, O2.
Yeah, I'm not breaking down film the same way. So, like, actually watching the games at home, I was there for games 1 through 3, and no, I was there for games 1 and 2. But you miss those sideline interviews watching live, obviously. So it's interesting to hear what guys have to say. But it could just be in the background. Like, I feel like some of the broadcasts anyway for the NBA are like live podcasts. So you might as well just bring that same format back. I agree, but it's probably worse for you since you're actually clipping video and then have to figure out what to do in those moments.
Yeah, to be clear, I have no issue with the actual interviews. I'm with you. I think it was JB's interview that I actually made notes of in my game breakdown, my raw notes game breakdown for the Substack. I thought he said some interesting things. I think it was JB. It may have been Trajan, one or the other, but I have no issues with the interview. Like, I just don't need to see them, right? Like you said, I will trust that they're there. O2, I don't care if they're not there. I don't care if they called in and they're on the phone for the interview. I'm cool with the broadcast, with the interview. I understand that it's not quite the same product as an NBA regular season game. Just give me the visual I need, which is here's the most annoying thing, O2. And it actually happens worse in some of the overseas basketball I watch, is when I miss live action for replays. That stuff drives me absolutely insane. I don't need the replay. I want to see what's going on live. I can rewind if I want to re-see it. And I know people have complained about that a little bit with Pistons. I don't know if that was the Bally broadcast or not, but it happens a lot with the overseas film that I get as well.
Yeah, and that's, again, it's like another issue. I feel like there are like a lot of issues in society that really just come down to like UI, like user interface. There are things you can do to just make the experience more user-friendly.
Thank you for clarifying that, because when you said UI, I had no idea what you were talking about. I was like, you just made something up and I don't know what it is, but okay.
But they could update. Like, I'm kind of hoping with Amazon getting into the fray and NBC, getting in, they could, like, because the NBA does it too sometimes. Like, you'll miss like a dunk or even on like the local broadcast, like you'll watch on TV and you could easily miss a player or two per game just because they don't cut fast enough. But I guess that's not UI. That's just broadcast decisions for sure. But I feel you.
Okay, let's get into it, because even with these issues that we're bringing up, very important ones, we got to see plenty of basketball. We got to see most of the minutes. We want to talk about some of these players and how they performed at Summer League. And I will quickly mention, I already have video breakdowns on the Substack of Dannis Jenkins, Chaz Lanier, and I believe Ron Holland II dropped today. Bobi Klintman will drop on Tuesday, and then Tolu Smith will drop on Wednesday. Guys, I'm stopping at Tolu Smith. I feel very good that Tolu Smith got a video breakdown. I'm cool not going into Miller Kopp or Zakai Ziegler or Bryce Williams or Trevor Kills. With all due respect to those guys, I'm stopping at 5, but I think those...
No Ryan Garcia.
I'm good. I think too. But let's start with the rookie this season, second round pick, Chaz Lanier, and his play. I will give the quick stats, just the box score numbers, and then I'll let you talk. He played all 5 games, almost 24 minutes a game, little over 10 points on 34, didn't attempt a single free throw in Summer League. That's kind of funny. A little under 2 rebounds, a little over 2 assists, 1.2 stocks, half a turnover. Your thoughts on Chaz Lanier?
Yeah, he could have had a better showing, to say the least. The main thing you want to see from him is just knocking down shots, since that's his calling card in college. And he didn't really do that. I think the last game he went 3 for 5, which was probably his best performance from deep. But beyond that, shots just didn't fall for him, to the extent that you'd want them to. And I also recognize, I think I mentioned it last week, he's playing in a system that's new for him, new teammates who don't know his tendencies, and the other 4 guys in that group, had all played together. So, maybe there's a little bit more of a learning curve for Chaz. But I think beyond that, it's just, you kind of mentioned it with the free throws, but when shots aren't falling, what else can you do? And I feel like I didn't really notice him out there unless he was actually shooting the ball, which, again, you probably wanted to see more from him as far as that. So.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think this is part of who Chaz Lanier is as a player, though, O2. Even whenever they drafted him, the scout kind of was shot maker, right? And the elite shot making. And I will say that, I'm not going to take a whole lot away from the 3-point percentage. I mentioned this, I think, on one of the breakdowns I did. There's some stats from different people out there that have looked at kind of the history of Summer League box score numbers and their translation to the rookie seasons for those guys. And the shooting percentage is one of the least, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say translatable, but
it has the least impact. There's no correlation.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Now, 3-point attempts and assists and stuff like that were some of the higher ones. So I think one thing you would come away encouraged by is he got 8 3-pointers a game. It's obvious that Chaz Lanier knows who he is.
And pretty quality looks, too.
Sure.
And that's probably the main thing that stood out to me, is just that he was getting good threes. They just weren't falling. So, again, 5 Summer League games doesn't dissuade you from his entire body of work in college. And if nothing else, and not to cut you off, but he did find those open shots repeatedly, which should help.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's the one thing that came away interesting with his 3-point shooting, and I think the eye test said this, and I know the numbers said this as well. And this was only a Summer League thing, so take it with a grain of salt. I know we're going to repeat this a lot. We understand it's Summer League, small sample, all of that. He actually shot really well on unguarded catch and shoot threes and really bad on guarded catch and shoot. There was a 10% difference in those type of attempts. I kind of wonder if Chaz was just adjusting to the athleticism, the speed of recoveries, the level of contests in the NBA game. And that's why we saw him struggle on some of the contested shots and then shot really well and made the uncontested one. That's probably my biggest takeaway from his 3-point shooting in Summer League, was his first taste of that level of athleticism and recovery closeouts at the 3-point line.
Yeah, and again, it's just, the environment, right?
Sure.
New team, new players, new gym. It's just a very, kind of informal environment, but also, if you can't get into a shooting rhythm, then, that's going to take away from the rest of your game, obviously. So nothing that really dissuades me from, my opinion of him as a player long term. I still think as long as he can knock down shots, he's probably a guy that could make a difference for you. But I would just say more than that, Summer League probably didn't do anything to dissuade me from that evaluation of him, right?
Yeah, I don't think that I'm taking away anything crazy in regards to like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if Chaz Lanier can shoot anymore. Wes brings up the low release point. I think that is fair, especially that taking longer to adjust whenever you have that level of defensive upgrade. And the other aspect of that, like it gets off fast. He does have a quick release, but it is low. So that's a really good point from Wes. I will say this, O2. I don't expect a whole lot else from him on the offensive end. He's a 2-level scorer at best. If he can mix in the mid-range jumper, I think he'll be like a smart passer. Like maybe he eventually figures out some offensive rebounding, stuff like that. I came away a little more okay with the defense than I thought I would. Like if you go watch my breakdown, it was like, okay, like he understood this. I think my biggest takeaway and the biggest positive was off the ball defensively. He knew where to be. He got to those spots. He made rotations. He was energetic on that end of the floor. He's never going to be a positive defender. I don't even know if Chaz Lanier gets to neutral defensively. The 3-point shooting has to be the elite skill. But from that 5-game sample, I came away going like, okay, maybe there's some foundational defensive stuff here that keeps him playable at the NBA level if he is that good as a floor spacer and shooter.
Right. Like if you can get as close to neutral as possible.
Correct.
Obviously that's the best outcome. And like with that, he's not a small guard. Like he's about 6'4", sure, but he's got, you know, like his wingspan is fine. And like I mentioned it before, but you know, he's got similar measurements, at least physically, as VJ Ashcombe and Khan Kanupa, which, you know, those guys are both like, they're all 6'4", but like they're not small 6'4" guys. So yeah, I mean, that's the upside with him is that he knows where to be. You're not giving up much size. And yeah, obviously if he's knocking down shots, then that gets you close enough to 3-and-D where, you know, at least it's not subtracted from either category.
You know, it's funny. Like I hate to do this, but like Tim Hardaway Jr. continues to be the high end comp for me. Like in terms of the size measurements are similar to your point, the quick release stuff, the 2-level scoring where it's like gravity at the 3-point line, but maybe he can shot fake, attack a closeout, get to the mid-range jumper. And then defensively, it's going to be whatever impact there is on the defensive end. It's going to look similar to what we got from Tim Hardaway Jr. You're like, maybe he learns to take charges as a rotational positional guy. I thought he had some good rotational box outs that I highlighted in the breakdown. It will be interesting. Ultimately, it's all about the 3-point shooting. He's got to knock down those shots. Before we move to Bobi Klintman, any other thoughts on Chaz Lanier?
No, nothing big. Just also, I think his game is probably a game that would pop in the NBA more as well, just because, you know, there are players with more gravity who can generate quality looks. Like if he's receiving passes from Cade or, you know, Jaden Ivey, you know, I'm sure that can help him as well. So that was the other thought I had watching him was I think in a more organized environment, you know, where you're fully aware of everything, you know, those strengths for him are only going to shine a lot more.
Yeah, Wes brings up Reggie Bullock as a Pistons throwback name. Yeah, I think that's it. That's a good point too. He is the archetype of player that is going to be better in a structured situation where they run a set action for him after a timeout. I highlighted, I think the Bobi Klintman one that comes out tomorrow. I highlighted a really cool set action that Detroit ran to start the game. And it was like a double flare on the weak side, whatever. But like they run that for Chaz Lanier and it gets him a wide open shot attempt. And that looks pretty good. Or just his gravity, right? There was one that I showed as well where he runs in transition and Rob Dillingham stays attached to him and Tolu ran the middle of the floor, gets a catch and a finish. Those are kind of the non-box score advantages and value that Chaz Lanier can bring on the offensive end that don't always show up and aren't as appreciated in a summer league type of setting. Speaking of Bobi Klintman, let's talk about him. I think he's the most interesting one to talk about because I think the other 3 players we're going to talk about are going to be very, very positive. And as Aruna brings up, Clintman was really frustrating. He can do anything on the court, but he may make so many mistakes. What did you think of Bobi Klintman, either end of the floor, wherever you want to start?
He did everything that we knew that he could do, just maybe not quite with the consistency that you would like to see it. But, you know, I thought the passing was there for the most part. You know, I think he had a couple games where he has some turnovers, but, you know, like you're still seeing the reads. I think his 3-point percentage ended up being fine by the end of it once you got through the 5 games. And he rebounded the ball well.
Yes.
You know, the rebounding was strong. And I do think that matters for a guy that's 6'10", is that, you know, if you're not giving up anything from the rebounding side, at least for a guy who projects as a stretch big. I think the issues with him or the things that maybe make you, wonder long term, like one, defensively, like, he's just not the quickest guy. So it's like, is that matchup dependent? Like, or like maybe you could stick him on Brook Lopez, but, you may not want to stick him on a guy like, Pascal Siakam, or somebody like that. Yeah. And beyond the defense aspect, it's just knocking down shots. And, I don't know if he's going to be like a downhill type of guy. So, for him, it's like he's just got to knock down threes, and that's really it.
Yeah, I want to stay on the defensive end. I'm kind of with you. I have found that I think I evaluate Bobi Klintman and see him as a different archetype of player as others. I don't kind of evaluate him as a big as much or like a center. I think like you can play him as a small ball five. Like I would consider him a small ball five more than a true center. I evaluate him more as a forward is what I would call him, like a true four man. But I feel like I'm in the minority of that O2 in regards to like the Pistons fan base and community.
Watching Bobi Klintman, well, I think positionally he's got to be a four, but sometimes watching him, I do wonder if you could play some small ball five.
Sure.
And just, it would probably protect him defensively a bit, but like the playmaking but then the other aspect of that is like, what's his interior game like? And then and I guess in that case, he's just a stretch five, right? But it's a unique fit. Like I would be curious to see if he could just do maybe like a little bit of what you get from like a Kelly Olynyk, right? Knock down shots, some secondary ball handling, playmaking, solid rebounder, and the defense, you just want to make sure you have some good wing defenders around him and hope for the best. But positionally, yeah, I feel like he's a little bit of a tweener almost. So in NBA wise, I'm curious how they would utilize him, especially on defense.
Wes says he's with me on that one. I would be curious. Like it may be a Twitter poll I have to put out in the next couple of days. Just like where does the fan base see the majority of his minutes, right? Like if Bobi Klintman played 60 games next year with the Detroit Pistons or in general, where do you think, if I said you had to choose 51%, would it be at the 4 or the 5? Because for me, I think he's like 75% of his minutes at the 4, 25% of his minutes at the 5 in specific lineups, specific matchups. I agree with you though defensively, because even while I say that, I have concerns about his ability to move on the perimeter and take some of the necessary matchups that would require. Now, in general, you're talking about second unit players where those matchups aren't as daunting and as difficult, but in general, his defense has to be more consistent. His off-ball defense in particular has to be more consistent. This is a guy with his size who has real potential to be an off-ball difference maker, a low man rim protector, and those type of things. I am glad you brought up the rebounding O2. That really stood out. And we'll talk about his offense after the break, but I thought on the defensive end, that was very impactful. And I think that could be a plus for him on the defensive end, especially if you're playing him at the 4 and he's able to bring down rebounds in that way. I'll give his numbers real quick here. 6 defensive rebounds per game. That's just defensive rebounds, O2. That's not rebounds overall.
Yeah, and it's the rebounding really that makes me think, okay, maybe he can be a 5, like in spurts with the right matchup, maybe against a team with a smaller lineup, like a Golden State, for example, right?
Sure.
Like, can you put Bobi Klintman on Draymond? Probably. I wouldn't say no. And yeah, I mean, beyond that, really for him, it's just the shot. But and where are you with the shot, by the way? Because there are some games where it's falling. There's some games where it wasn't. We talked about it last week. I think he was around 30% in the G League, even though he shot it decent in college. So he's kind of seesaw.
Yeah, let's talk about that right after this.
All right, back with segment 2. We're going to continue here with Bobi Klintman. Let's talk about the jumper, because that's probably gonna be the swing skill for him offensively.
I'm a little nervous, O2. Listen, I've been tracking Bobi Klintman back to his time at Wake Forest, and he had a stretch at the end of his season at Wake Forest where he shot the ball extremely well, and I was like all in on him. I thought he could have been a late like riser first round pick in that draft, and now that he didn't. Not only did that not happen, he went to Carnes, Type A, Type N, whatever they are in the NBL, and then he went into the draft and then obviously slipped to the second round for the Pistons. And it's like, I don't know that the jumper is broke. He has stretches where there's enough makes that give you some hope. It's just not consistent enough with Bobi Klintman. So I was going to pull up just like the overall numbers here. Well, let me give you the offensive numbers for Summer League in general. He played almost 27 minutes a game, all 5 games for Bobi Klintman as well. 9 points for a second-year player, 41% from the field, because I want to talk about more with this scoring than just the three-point shooting.
Yes, it's everything else too. But yeah.
29% from 3, 60% from the free throw line. We mentioned the rebounding, over 7 total. This is one of those. The assist to turnover numbers are a lie. Like in terms of his passing ability, he had a negative assist to turnover ratio. Yeah. I do know he makes bad decisions at times, but 2.4 assists per game do not tell the story on the level of passer he is. And then encouraging defensive numbers, over 2 stocks per game in those 27 minutes. But I am worried about the 3-point shooting for Bobi Klintman overall. I was going to pull up. So right here, where are the G League stats? Last season, 29% on 4.5 attempts. He had the 1 year at Wake Forest where in totality, he was 37% on 2.3. And then if you look at his 1 year in the NBL, 34% on 3.5 attempts. So those aren't exactly like crazy positive numbers to buy into, O2.
Yeah. And it's like, if he could be like a 34% shooter, like I kind of like my baseline for, Bobi Klintman, where, you're hoping you could probably be a rotational power forward. Like you're probably not going to lean on him for more than 15 to 20 minutes is like a Trey Lyles, right? Because Trey Lyles could get you some rebounding, like not the best defensively, but he's also going to knock down somewhere between 34 and 36% of his threes, which, makes him enough to be a spacing threat. He could attack downhill a little bit off closeouts too.
Oh, yeah.
And that's, and that's something I don't know if Bobi can do as well, but like, do you think he could just be 34, 35%? Like, would that suffice for him? Or do you think he needs to be a true knockdown guy?
No. I think with a little bit of growth defensively, and then here's what's frustrating with Bobi O2, and it kind of speaks to the comment we got earlier. He does offer a lot of really positive things. It's just, I think the things he does best doesn't necessarily get him on the court in his role. I think his passing is awesome. Like I don't even necessarily want to talk about it in regards to like, I don't think there's a whole lot to discuss. It's good. He makes really good decisions. He's able to attack downhill. I have a clip in the breakdown where he has nuance in the ball screen where he like plays with a little bit of pace, breaks down the defense, drive and kick. Like that stuff is good. I think he's an incredible off-the-ball cutter, O2.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I had him in my pre-draft notes that he might be the best off-ball cutter in that draft. Now, Tristan da Silva probably is actually that guy, but he's top 3, and he showed it in Summer League. We talked about the potential to be a defensive disruptor. We talked about the rebounding. But ultimately, if you're a 4-5, like hybrid, whatever we want to call him, versatile forward/big, whatever, coming off the bench, you got to be able to score the ball, right? Like, and right now, I don't know that I trust him to score the ball at any level. Like, we're talking about the 3-point shooting. And so to your point, I do think if he was at 35%, I'd be like, hey, I think I can buy into that. I think he struggles to score at the rim as well for somebody his size. Those numbers aren't exactly great either. Again, 41% from the field overall.
Yeah, and that's the thing where, like I said with Chaz, like I do think if you put Bobi in a more organized scenario and like, just higher tier of play, you've got cutters, like you've got more options to pass to. You've got some elite shooters that you don't have in Summer League or at the G League necessarily. Like I think there's a scenario where Bobi's strengths pop enough in that sort of environment that it does make up for the defensive weaknesses. And that's assuming that he can't, fix those too and even just get to a neutral. Like, again, I don't know if you want to put him on a guy like a Pascal or, some of the more athletic bigs, but I do think positionally there are some matchups that you could probably trust him on, especially for guys who aren't the strongest shooter. So I wasn't blown away by Bobi Klintman, but it reaffirmed a lot of what we already knew. And yeah, and I agree too, like the passing is just so legitimate. And in the NBA, like I just think that would pop so much more just because he's going to be in a much better environment for that type of skill set.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want this is going to come off negative, and I feel like people are going to yell at me, us, for it. And I don't mean it to, because one, we can't take away too much from a 5-game sample. But I think with Bobi's shooting, we're not just talking about the 5-game sample of Summer League, right? Like, we're using a bigger sample size than that. And ultimately, I'm just saying this, I'm still on board. Like, I would love for them to bring in Trey Lyles or Chris Boucher or somebody like that to round out the front court, and we'll talk about this the rest of the offseason, going into camp, all of that, depending on what they do. I'm actually okay with Bobi Klintman being the 10th man in the rotation, which is probably 10 minutes a night, because Ron is going to play some minutes at the 4. Asar is going to play some minutes at the 4. Obviously Tobias Harris is going to play 30 minutes a night. I'm okay starting this. I would rather start the season that way. I've mentioned this before, and then adjust as the season goes on. So what I saw in Summer League doesn't discount that, but nothing I saw in Summer League makes me go, oh no, he is ready, right? And that's maybe what you wanted to see, even though it's still Summer League. I guess I was hoping for a little bit of like, he looks fully ready to take on that 10th man rotation role. And I don't know that I feel that way right now on July 21st, 02.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just seesaw maybe a little bit too much from game to game. Man, I don't know if there was one game where he kind of put everything together. So, I think we're both still high on Bobi. It's just, for any second-year guy, you probably want to see a performance closer to, Ron, who, I think we're going to get to soon. Yeah, it doesn't sway my opinion too much, but no, he wasn't quite on that same level.
So I know that, Wes has this for us at the end. I think the way this is going, it might be better if we just talk about it now. Like, where does that leave it for you in the rotation? Are you still with me where, like, would you feel comfortable if he was the 10th guy? Like, let's just say the starting lineup is K, J.I., Asar, Tobias, Duren. Backups are the combination of LeVert, Robinson, Holland, Stu. If Bobi Klintman was the 5th guy of those guys, right? You're staggering Ivy as the backup point guard. LeVert's doing a little bit, whatever. And would you be okay if they don't add another 4/5, are you still in that spot? Or after seeing this, would you be like, yeah, I would rather if he was like the 13th man that's only playing in like extreme situations?
Yeah, probably closer to the latter. Okay. Like, I still think you need legitimate 4 to back up Tobias. And I think Asar could play some 4. I think Ron could play some 4. But you probably want just a guy with like a little bit more size and probably a little bit more proven as a shooter. And I just think he wants certainty there. Like, it's really nothing against Bobi at all. I just think it's more so like if a guy gets hurt and Bobi could get those opportunities to show what he could do, then maybe you could carve out a role from there. But he's just got to show more, than what he's shown so far. And granted, he hasn't really had those opportunities. Like, he didn't really play last season until like the last game. And I think he had like 6 assists and 0 turnovers. Like, again, like, he showed some nice things. So to me, it's more so 13th man. But if you could get opportunities here and there to show what you could do, maybe you feel more comfortable with him eventually being that backup to Tobias.
Yeah. And so we have a super chat here first. Thank you so much. We've had more and more of these coming through. This is from Slim Whopper. And he says, or she, it looks like is there a world where we can have Bol and Bobi Klintman? Like, sure. I guess my answer to this, like, sure. Like, if that's the road you want to go down with a Bol, I think that's a little bit more of a lottery ticket type of signing than a Trey Lyles or somebody like that, where I think maybe there's not as much upside with Trey Lyles, but you know exactly what you're going to get with that situation. I would be okay with that. I would guess that Bol isn't signing up for that role and situation. I don't know what his opportunities are, so maybe he doesn't have a choice. The other thing I would say is, like, Detroit went the Bol path. I did a whole video breakdown on it before the trade was nullified because of not passing the physical or not clearing, however that works. I just wonder what that would look like after that did not go through. What would that be? A few years ago, when, if people don't remember, he got traded for Rodney Magruder. So, and then that got nullified and he ended up not in Detroit.
Like, I love Bo, like, just the concept, like, of Bo. Like, I love, like, and I know he's super popular on social media. I'd probably go a different direction with that spot. Like, I think if you have Bobi, like, with the bigs they have and Bobi, like, just positionally, I just don't know if I go with Bo in that spot, especially if you're already signing another 4. Like, Bo is so popular. Like there's like Bo muses and stuff. Like I love his popularity, and like I've always loved the idea of his game coming together, but it just hasn't. He's bounced around a little bit, and for the Pistons, I just don't know if the upside is there for that position when they could probably go for another wing or another guard.
Wes says he would rather sign. Never mind. Wes says no. Okay. He said he'd rather sign Trey Lyles or Chris Boucher. You got to type faster, Wes. That's my bad. Steven Suggs says, do you really need another 4 in today's NBA, or only having 1 4 in Harris good enough? This is from Steven Suggs. It's an interesting thought, Steven, because if Tobias is going to play all those minutes, are the backup minutes from Ausar and Ron plenty? I think you could make that argument. I think it's fair. I think my worry is like, okay, well then what happens when Tobias is out? Now every minute for 48 has to come from Ausar and Ron Holland. I think that's where I'm not clamoring for them to go make a big swing at 4. I think that's why I continue to bring up the name Trey Lyles. Aruna says he likes that. Sham says he likes that. I think they need another body that they can go to in a situation like that, especially considering Tobias's age, O2.
Yeah, certainly. Like, I think you said it. Like, if Tobias were to miss any time, like, now you're like, then at the 4, and you pretty much have to either go double big with Duran or Stu for some time, or you're relying on Bobi Klintman, which, again, he might be ready for that moment, but he just hasn't had an opportunity to show it, which is why I said earlier, he's probably more 13th man. There might be games where he can get 20 to 25 minutes and put on a pretty nice audition, but you just need another body there. You just need more depth behind Tobias. You need a guy that's going to, provide some of what he provides from a spacing standpoint, I think, especially. Ron shot the ball very well. We will get to Ron.
Yeah, we will.
Eventually. I don't know if you want to trust him to get to like 37% or wherever Tobias was last season.
Okay, before we get to Ron and Dannis, like obviously, guys, I think the guys that had the 2 best summer leagues for last. And there's a reason for that. I think conversations around those 2 guys and their roles are interesting as well. Like Ron's obviously because he's in the rotation. And I think Dannis because he's the most like, people were already talking about Bobi Klintman being in the rotation next year, like potentially. I don't think any of us were clamoring for Dannis Jenkins to be on the 15-man roster before summer league. So we'll get to Dannis in a second. But first, I do want to talk about Tolu Smith. Like he is the 5th guy that I'm doing a breakdown on, and I kind of had a lot of fun with it, O2. I evaluated him a little differently. So to, spoil some of that video breakdown, I did not evaluate Tolu Smith on like what he could be as an NBA player. What I evaluated Tolu on was like his value to an organization in the G League. And I came away pretty encouraged by that. So let me give Tolu's stats and then I'll let you talk about what you saw from him in summer league. 5 games, 22 minutes a night, 13 points on 50% from the field. Obviously not a 3-point shooter. Almost 7 free throw attempts a game and shot it at 68%. 8 rebounds, including almost 4 offensively, 1.5 assists, over 2 blocks, and a little under 2 turnovers. What did you think about Tolu Smith?
Yeah, he just brought it every single game and played really, really hard every single game. And every minute he was on the court, you noticed him because he was either rebounding or, finishing a post move or dunking or getting to the line. Like he's just always doing something. And like, I like his game. He's fun to watch. Like he's coordinated. Like he's got some bounce. He basically does all the big man stuff you would want like pretty well. Like I compare him to maybe a guy like a Jonas Valanciunas. Like he's just pretty proficient at all the traditional big man stuff, whether it's rebounding, setting screens, being, a presence at the rim, or like even like blocking shots. Like I thought he had some nice blocks. He really stood out. Like I thought physically he stood out. Like he was always one of the more athletic guys on the floor. And, I don't know what it means for him going forward, but like after Ron, and Dannis, like he arguably was, their 3rd best player, like I would say.
I mean, he was their 3rd leading scorer, which is kind of crazy. Like Chaz was right below him at 10. Bobi wasn't even in double figures. I think what Aruna says here was my biggest takeaway. Like this is essentially was the crux of my video breakdown that we'll be dropping on Wednesday. Tolu does an amazing Duran impression for the G League. That's exactly what I said. He can operate in the middle of the floor. He can operate a DHO. He sets good screens. He can give you scheme versatility. So I think like offensively, he gives you a little bit of the Duren-ish stuff. And then I think defensively, he gives you a little bit of the Isaiah Stewart-ish stuff. Like obviously, if he was actually those guys, we'd be talking about him in the rotation. I don't think he's actually those guys. I think he's a G League version of those guys, which to me is important because on offense, you know what he does? He sets really good screens that now allow the offensive ball handler to make decisions in the ball screen. Okay, do I shoot it? Do I pass it? Do I attack? It allows them to read the defense with a big that is setting good screens and being in the right spot. And then defensively, he's a great communicator and he has coverage versatility in ball screens, which yet again allows a player like Chaz Lanier to go down to the G League and have a big that's going to allow him to learn how to guard ball screens because he's going to communicate to him. And it's going to be, hey, we're dropping this one. Now we're blitzing this one. Now we're switching that one. I just think he's very valuable to this organization is what I came away with.
Yeah. And he had a good year in the G League last season too. And like, watching him up close for 5 games, like again, like he just always popped. And there's not really an aspect of the game that he can't play, like it's like, especially just from the standpoint of him, like being a pretty true 5, he's about 6'10", 6'11", like you do wonder if there's ever a time where there's, injury or anything else, if, he could get a call up and actually make a difference out there. Cause this is all translatable stuff. And, it's not like he's giving up size or anything.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is I thought the same on the size. I actually looked up the measurements. He actually has a 1 inch shorter standing reach than Isaiah Stewart, which I think is a little bit of a limiting factor. Like Stu is awesome, but Stu finds a way to get it done at what most would consider undersized for the 5, right? Like most people would say that. And so it takes a special defensive player to be able to make up for that. Steven brings up a great point. Like Tolu and Dannis obviously have great chemistry from their time in the G League. Wes said he looked stronger and quicker, which is real hard to do. I agree. I thought at times he looked twitchy, like explosive off the court for some rim protection, for some lob finishes. Listen, I was not going into Summer League like, oh, I'm going to be talking about Tolu Smith. Like it's impressive. I like what he did. Aruna says we just have a stacked center rotation. I think when you talk about depth, I would agree. I think there's arguments about the high end aspect of that. That all comes down to Jalen Duren and his growth and improvement and what he is. But Isaiah Stewart has to be one of the better backup centers in the league. I think Paul Reed is a very good third center in the NBA for that role. And I think Tolu Smith as your fourth center on a 2-way is a really, really nice spot to be in for the Pistons. So in general, I would agree. I think there could be arguments in terms of some versatility and variety of that room, hence my Maxime Renault love coming out of the draft. But I do like the depth of that. And I like, again, I want to emphasize this. I really like what Tolu provides the guys in the G League. If people really want to value that and what it can do in terms of development, having a center like Tolu Smith that does what he does provides that opportunity to grow for young perimeter players. So those are the first 3 guys. Again, guys, we're probably not getting into Zakai Ziegler, Bryce Williams, Keels, Brooks, Garcia, etc. But we do still have Dannis Jenkins and Ron Holland II. We will get to those 2 guys right after this.
All right, back here with segment 3. Let's talk about Dannis Jenkins because he was probably the player who, I don't want to say surprised, but I think he probably was the player that took the most noticeable step forward, especially offensively, was just, the shot making. And that was probably the one knock on him last season is that he didn't make shots as well. And I mean, just his leadership, the fire he played with, you noticed kind of like Tolu, you absolutely noticed every single minute Dannis was on the floor. Defensively, I'll give the floor to you, but just what did you see from Dannis?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the shot making. So looking at his numbers right here in college, where he played at a handful of schools, actually, career 33% 3-point shooter. Not crazy volume, but I mean, in terms of per game, but 5 seasons, we have a 400 3-point attempt sample, 33%. But he was an 80% free throw shooter. Now you go last year in the G League, 33%, but on 7 attempts per game, which is a high volume and a real uptick from what he did in college. And again, a 77% free throw shooter. Now here in Summer League, 14 points on 45% from the field, 42% from three, 78% from the free throw line. I thought it all started with Dannis Jenkins being able to knock down shots. I agree. I don't know if surprised is the best word or if exceeded expectations is the better phrase based on what I thought coming in. But man, I was really impressed. I want to get this off the dome. I will not sit here and argue for him to be the backup point guard. I think that is taking it too far, O2, for us to say Dannis Jenkins should be Cade's backup. He should be the 10-man rotation. He should be the new Dennis Schroeder role. One, I don't think that role is available anyway between J.I. and Karis LeVert. But I think I'm okay if they moved him to the 15-man roster. If Dannis Jenkins was the 5th guard and your 13th man, I think I'm okay with that. And maybe I'm overreacting to Summer League. I thought he was good last year defensively. If you want to watch how to navigate a ball screen, O2, watch Dannis Jenkins film because he absolutely does that. Reed Sheppard had Cox Pavilion on fire 2 nights before, and Dannis Jenkins made him look like he did not want to be there. I will go on Game Theory Thursday night when we talk about the non-rookie Summer League. And whenever Sam waxes poetically about how good Reed Sheppard is, I'm going to remind him that Dannis Jenkins made him look like he would rather be anywhere else. And maybe Reed just would rather have been anywhere else. I thought Dannis Jenkins was really, really good, O2.
Yeah, I mean, to me, he's the absolutely perfect guy to have a two-way because he can get those shots during the season, to show that he can be that type of role. And he's about 6'3". He's not to me, that's almost the cutoff for a point guard, unless you're super elite.
You want to call him a smaller guard because he's not super well built, but it's not like he's not crazy tiny.
He's wiry, he could he's big enough that you feel good about him against most other ones, especially a guy like Reed Sheppard, who's pretty well beat, probably built, has, probably a little bit of an overall size advantage, but just Dannis's ability to maneuver. I'm not sure what his wingspan is. I would have to see that. But to me, there's no reason why you probably couldn't feel pretty good about putting him on 1s and 2s if he's going to continue to navigate screens as well as he did. And they just combined that with just the actual point guard stuff. His assist to turnover ratio was fantastic. I mean, you see why fans are getting excited and saying, well, maybe he could be, 14th, 15th or whatever, because he pretty much checked every box you would want. And point guard who's going to come in and run an offense for 15 to 20 minutes. But yeah, I think this is a perfect season to have him on a two-way. And then if he dominates the G League, he shows he could do it in the NBA, then you go into next summer and you have a decision to make about his future.
Yeah. So Ersin Dimmer, who I remember after Summer League last year, I found his article on Dannis Jenkins. I probably have a quote tweet somewhere because Jenkins caught my eye last Summer League as well, but he has him at 6'3.25". I don't know if that's with, I assume that has to be with shoes. Cause that almost mean he was 6'4" with shoes if that was without, but has his wingspan at 6'6.5". So just in terms of length, it's not crazy, but it's funny because the first part of his right up here over on Substack, this is EDEMIRNBA.substack.com. You can find it. Again, it's a year old now, but is his pick and roll defense and what he did in regards to that. I just think it's a very valuable skill. I think there are very specific matchups for Dannis Jenkins that I think he can really thrive in. There are some matchups he would struggle with. If he had to go out there and guard, let's say a primary creator like Cade Cunningham, I think he would struggle with that. I thought Reed was a really good matchup for him, but I came away encouraged. Here's the other thing I highlighted, O2, in that breakdown. And this is one I really do encourage you guys to go check out. I think this is a pretty good one that I did. And Dannis was first of the 5 because I was so impressed with how he played. It's not just the on-ball stuff. If Dannis was actually going to play with the Pistons, he would have to play off the ball as well because the ball will be in Cade Cunningham's hands or Jaden Ivey or Asar or Karis LeVert. He had a possession where he sprints in transition and sprints right to the corner, right right where he should be and spaces. Middle ball screen action happens. He lifts to the wing at the perfect time. He actually was wide open. The pass just wasn't made. I think it was Lanier actually, but it's like he understands off the ball movement as well. And that's a very important aspect for a guy like Dannis Jenkins that's not going to go into an NBA role and have the ball in his hands 100% of the time.
Yeah. Like I came away thinking that, this is a player that's turned the corner as a shooter. Sure. And again, it's Summer League. We've seen guys come into Summer League and dominate, and then it's a different story later. But you mentioned the free throw percentage for him has always been very consistent. Like the attempts per game last season tells me that it's something he's put significant reps into. And like just watching him shoot, it's like there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to sustain this. I mean, like everything about it looked great. So yeah, if he's coming back next season and he's knocking down anything north of 36, 37%, like, you've got to feel a lot better about his chances going forward.
Wes says Jenkins looked too good for Summer League, completely unexpected. Like he looked at the level we hoped Bobi Klintman would be at. I think that's right. I think I take away a little bit more with these guys that are in their second year. I would just give you the improvements from last year to this year, just Summer League numbers. In less minutes, he scored 4.5 more points per game, only took one more shot. He went from 35% to 45% from the field, 33% from three to 42. Here's a fun number. He actually shot 92% from the free throw line. So there's a track record in his history of being a very good free throw shooter, which I think speaks to your talk, just like on his form and stuff. More assists, his stock numbers were down a little bit. Turnovers went down. Just a really impressive performance. Aruna asked a fun question. Is Dannis ahead of Sasser for you right now, O2?
I've seen Sasser have some really good, solid games in the NBA. We've also seen Sasser dominate Summer League and score 40. So, no, I can't, I just have to see Dannis in real NBA action. I think for me, that kind of gets to the point where you begin to run too far with Summer League. I like Dennis's chances, a lot stronger, of course, after that type of performance, but I've got to see him in real NBA minutes first. We've seen what Sasser could do, and he could really, really shoot the ball, and he's had some strong games and some strong performances. So
yeah, I'm with you. I'm very excited about Dannis. Like I said, I am not in the camp of hey, Dannis Jenkins is the Pistons backup point guard. I think that's going a little too much if you're putting Dannis in the 10-man rotation, even the 11-man rotation. Again, if we get to a certain point, he ends up on the 15-man roster. Sure. I love him being on a two-way right now. I think that's a perfect spot for him. I wouldn't hate it if he ends up there. The only argument is Dannis's play style is a little different than Sasser. And if you just valued that more, I still think Marcus Sasser could be a value to this team in the right role, which is an off the ball offensive role. I don't think he's a point guard. I think he's an off the ball shot maker, and then find a way to be disruptive defensively. The one thing I think Dannis is better than Marcus Sasser defensively. I think the way he navigates screens and stuff like that, I do think he's better there, but I would not put him above Sasser because to your point, we've seen Sasser do it on an NBA court. And I mean, I think if Sasser was there, we know what he would do to a Summer League situation as well. Last player here that we're going to talk about, saved it for 50 minutes into the episode. That wasn't entirely intentional. We were saving him for last, but theoretically it was supposed to be around 30, 35 minutes. Ron Holland II. Again, shameless plug yet again. I just dropped his video breakdown today on Monday on the Substack. That is absolutely free. If anybody's curious, you don't even have to subscribe to watch those video breakdowns. What were your thoughts on Ron Holland, O2?
Yeah, too good for Summer League. I think the main thing for Ron was, you got 81 games last season. You surpassed expectations. You had the type of game where theoretically he could come into Summer League and just dominate because he's just going to play every aspect of it and outwill people and out athletic them and outmaneuver and all the things that he's able to do. And that's what he did. He was also, I think, 7 of 15 from three, and the shot definitely looked more improved. I want to say he got to the line 8 or 9 times a game or something like that. His free throws are way up there, which again, I mean, the first step, the ability to get to the line, we saw that last season. So obviously that transferred. 4 steals a game. We saw how disruptive he was defensively last season and his ability to drive and transition. Lost 3 straight, he just did everything you wanted to see him do. I feel like he checked every box as a year 2 player. You wanted to walk away like, yeah, like this guy is a bona fide NBA player and he doesn't need to be here anymore. And he got shut down after 3 games. And like, I think for most people, that's probably the overall takeaway.
Yeah, I think the shot making or the way the shot looked and the fluidity of it was my biggest takeaway. I'm glad you brought that up because I do think that that's where I would want to start. So yet again, just to give the numbers, he averaged 22 points a game in 30 minutes. He played 3 games. He was 53% from the field, 47% from 3 on 5 attempts, 77% from the line on almost 9 attempts, 6 rebounds, a little over 2 assists. He did have 4 turnovers. When we get to the like,
some of those turnovers weren't real turnovers though.
No, that's fair.
Some of them, but some of them were real turnovers.
Yeah,
so.
4 steals a game. No, I will say this. I think the decision-making in the passing was better, O2. I do. I'm with you. Like, we sat there that first game and we're like, he should have 3 assists already and he has none. Like, as much love as we gave Tolu Smith, the first one of the summer, Tolu's standing out of bounds in the dunker spot and it should have been an assist for Ron and it's not. I think the assist number should have been higher. The turnovers should have been down a little bit. I will say, I do think there's still some room for growth with the decision-making, some consistency with that. And then on the defensive end, I like the point of attack defense. Some of the off-ball defense has some consistency things as well. But in general, I agree with you. I thought he looked too good for Summer League, which is exactly what you wanted to see from your second-year player that was a former number 5 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't have anything to knock him on at all. Like you mentioned, the 3-point shooting and like, again, low volume, but it's mostly like, is this stuff he could replicate at a higher level? And it was. Yeah, he had, I think it was game 2. He had like the first 2 assists and they were lobs to Clintman and to Tolu. And yeah, some of the interior passes he had in game 1, for me, it was just for him, like it just seemed very purposeful that he wanted to go out and set the tone as a playmaker. So yeah, it was like 2 assists and 4 turnovers a game. But yeah, I think with some different teammates or different environment, like I think it probably would have been more even, like 3-3, which at least is, I mean, that's a lot better than 2-4. So yeah, I really don't have much to knock Ron on at all. He's obviously coming into next season with some degree of hype, just given how young he was last season. And yeah, I mean, he just turned 20. Like he's still younger than some of the rookies in this year's class. And I think he's set up pretty nicely.
What do you think this means for his role? Like, was there something that came out of this that you were like, because I had somebody throw this at me today, like if Ron is like, okay, so J.I. comes back, you're replacing Beasley with Duncan Robinson, theoretically. You're replacing LeVert with, Schroeder with LeVert. I guess Ivy in the starting lineup with Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, we think Asar is going to take a little bit of a step forward. Maybe Jalen Durham. Like, where's the room for Ron to grow? Like, do you think there's room for Ron to grow? Do you think there's more usage? Is it all in the second unit? Is he a guy they stagger in and let play more with Cade? Like, what does this mean? Because I kind of agree with everything you've said. I just wonder where the room to like open his wings and go comes from, Omari.
Yeah. So what's kind of funny, I noticed this the other day. Like, if you asked me without knowing, like, how many minutes per game did Ron average last season, like I would have guessed somewhere between 20 and 26, and he averaged 15.6 minutes. Like He was just under 16 minutes per game.
81 games, but
81 games, but but like very much like 9th, 10th man type scenario. Fontecchio's out, so that vacates some minutes. And we talked about it earlier, just the approach to power forward, but you probably can get Ron closer to 24, 25 minutes, which, I think after last season, you could say he's shown that he can handle a bigger role. And maybe that's just where it comes from. Like, maybe it's not, we could get you 28, 29, like a starter role at this point, unless he forces the issue. But like, assuming they don't do anything drastic, to reshape the 4. I mean, he's 6'8". He can defend certain fours. Like, I would give him a shot against a guy like an Aaron Gordon or, Pascal Siakam. I don't think that he's giving up too much size against those guys. So it could work. And I think with Tech not being there, that should open up at least 5 or 6 minutes for him at the power forward position.
Yeah, I think it was the Knicks game is the game I used for the breakdown. And I showed, I think it was against Diawara, who's like 6'9", 225, like not a very skilled rookie, whatever. But like Ron was not giving up like strength in that situation. Like Diawara tried to like bully him into the lane and Ron Holland gave no ground. And so I just showed that as like, hey, this is interesting. I realize it's a rookie that doesn't really know what he's doing, but just from a physicality standpoint, he was able to hold up against this bigger player. Wes says a lot of the usage comes from Tobias Harris. Ron has to steal the minutes and opportunities from him. I think he has to force the issue. So I agree. Like I want to see real growth whenever they do that. So yeah, I'm interested to see. I liked what we saw in Summer League. I'm excited to see him in the regular season and the role that he has, but it was good. It was good to see the jumper. It was good to see him knock down catch and shoot. I know he had like in that Knicks game, he had like a sick, like between the legs, behind the back, like corner one that was just ridiculous. The more impressive one to me was he used a ball screen, set it up, defenders late switched, and then he hit that one. Cause that's more of a play type that I think is realistic for Ron than going straight ISO in the corner. And he obviously had it going in that game, but very productive Summer League for Ron Holland, for Dannis Jenkins, Tolu Smith, Bobi Klintman, Chaz Lanier, a little bit more. We're not sure. Obviously, Summer League is a 5-game sample, very small sample size. Real quick, before we get to a couple questions from the chat, were there any players that stood out to you otherwise? Like, I know you got to see some other games, maybe when you got back home and watched stuff on the TV. Was there anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, just that they had a few guys like a shoot the ball, Miller Kopp.
No, sorry. From the rest of the NBA. My bad.
Oh, from the rest of the NBA in general.
Yeah, like just in general. Any other general thoughts from anybody or anything?
Like nothing super illuminating. I would just say, and like people will debate other aspects, but like I like Derek Queen a lot. Like I thought he had some really strong performances in Summer League, and he's just a guy that can just hoop. Like I've compared him to Julius Randle. Like I think that's probably the closest comp I could have for a guy who has a little bit more ground bound, but just is really coordinated and can play, make, and handle the ball. And to me, like that's how he looked in Summer League. So, he was a guy that, I thought, I don't think I did a draft with or anything this season, but like, I had him like top 7, top 8. Like, I don't know if there's 7 better players in this draft. He looked pretty good. Obviously Cooper Flagg looked great in that second game, as we all knew he probably would. It was some other guys that stood out too. I did like Hanson Yang. Like I kind of just like almost like the coach of personality that's like emerged around him. And, he's just got a fun game. And, he's one of those guys where you wonder, okay, give him NBA caliber teammates and just how much does that open up his playmaking? So I didn't get to watch as many games as I wanted to, but those guys definitely stood out.
For sure. Unfortunately, Derek Queen be out 12 weeks with a wrist injury. We'll see how that plays out for him. I will say, Young Hansen, I watched a game where it was Blazers, whoever, not the Lakers or the Mavs or somebody like that. It was the last game of the night. And if he was not playing, that gym would have been empty because the only person that the crowd was cheering for was Young Hansen anytime anything happened. Sloppy Sand says, Bryce complained about interviews being half the screen. Well, I hate all interviews during the game, even if the interviewee isn't shown. Complete transparency. I probably only listen to the broadcast overall about 5% of the games I watch. Usually I just have it on mute and I'm listening to a random podcast whenever I'm watching film. So Wes says, is it fair to say I was disappointed in Reed Shepherd's listen, the Pistons game, Wes, was the only game I really watched Reed. I did not think he looked good. I thought his defense wasn't any impressive at all. So I know me and Sam are going to have some fun talking about that because I know he will defend Reed Shepherd to the death. So Michael says, Lakers waived Jordan Goodwin. This was a move so that they can bring in Marcus Smart. Thoughts on Detroit putting a waiver claim on him? I'll just read some quick notes I have from Goodwin. This is actually from 2 years ago when he was with the Suns. Backup point guard, good size, getting buckets early in the game. He's aggressive and attacks the paint. Historically, the 3-point shooting has not been good. Impactful defensive plays off the ball. Interesting, big, strong physical guard that I wish could shoot. Those are kind of my notes on him. Just to give some context, career NBA 32% 3-point shooter. He did shoot 38% last year in 29 games with the Lakers. Could be an interesting flyer. Not a guy I'm going to pound the table on. O2, any thoughts on Jordan Goodwin?
I don't really have any strong thoughts. If I'm sitting in the GM chair, like, the 2 spots you address probably are just backup 4. And like, I'd get a vet at point guard. I think Goodwin's more of a guy that's looking, for opportunities to show what he can do. And, I just don't know if Detroit makes the most sense for him.
Yeah, interesting player. I hope he gets a chance. Last thing here, Sports Time says, Omari, you like some singer? Who is this?
I'm familiar with him, but like, I would take some song recs if people would hit me on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever. Like, I need to listen to him more because he is definitely similar to some other people that I like or so I've been told. So I could use some recs for sure.
So once a day, Omari tweets something out that I have no idea what he's talking about. So another one, Omari, what kind of bike is that behind you? Just asking, I ride too.
It is a REI. I forget the exact model, but it was like somewhere between like the entry and mid level, just like road bike. Good bike. Got it like 4 years ago. That's been good to me. So I like riding, obviously.
Wes says, shout out to the RE bike. Just another thing, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So I hate riding bike. Like
really? Wow.
I don't like it. I don't know what it is. So I tried for a little bit. We like all bought, like when the kids got old enough to start riding bikes, me and Randy each bought one. Like, oh, we'll go on family bike rides. And I was like, I'd rather just walk or jog to keep up if I had to. So not a fan of the bike.
Nah, like I like bikes because you just cover so much more ground.
Sure. Yeah,
and you know, like you get like a nice little breeze. It's just more fun. Like bike riding is a lot more fun.
No, I'm with you. I
do like going on walks too. I'll give you that.
What? One, I go on a walk every day. Like I have to get it. It's like a decompressed thing. Wes did a 41-mile ride last week and then said great time.
When I was in high school, I'm not trying to one up Wes. I'm just saying like I did a 50-mile bike ride when I was in high school.
Take that, Wes, 50 miles.
Yeah. I'm just saying like I don't know if I could I don't know if I could bust out a 41-mile right now, but I would love to get to that point.
Y'all are crazy.
I could do a good 25 for sure.
Wild.
50 was intense. 50 is intense. I think 25 is like the limit of like nice, strong workout. You feel great about it, but it's not going to take all day. You could do it in like 3 hours, maybe.
Sometimes on the road, I jump on a Peloton. Like if I'm traveling and they have a Peloton in the hotel and when I'm getting a workout in, that's the most bike riding I do. So Aruna says Bryce might be too tall for regular bikes. Maybe that's it.
That's a good point.
Good stuff, guys. Good episode here. Obviously, we had Summer League to talk about. Now we are to the point of the season, the off season, where we have to get a little bit creative. We'll figure it out. I'm actually going vacationing next week, which may put a little bit of a, what are we going to do here? So I don't know if no episode is even an option, but if you don't get an episode next week, that is why that we have made that decision, or we may record something before that. But
yeah, I also have some time coming off in August. So me and Bryce will commiserate and figure out which days we can still crank the pod out for you all. But we're in like peak dog days of the season now.
Yep. So if you have any suggestions of topics or fun things to talk about, I know Wes has a list of things we can go to, but let us know because we are taking those as we speak. Otherwise, please rate, review, subscribe, help us continue to grow. We know it's the off season, but we can still do that. Make sure you listen to Wes and Blake over on the Pin Down on the Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel. Subscribe over there. Subscribe to the Free Press. Read Omari. Subscribe for free to the Motor City Hoops Substack. Read and listen to the stuff I put out over there. And O2, take it away, my guy.
All right. Big thanks to our audio producer, Robin Chan, our editor-in-chief, Dakota Avery Nichols, and a big shout out to Wes Davenport, as always. We'll see you all potentially next week.